I am still buzzing after yesterday's win over Montreal. And I can tell you that this Blues team, it's going to be an insane ride until the playoffs. But I think they're more than capable of making it into the playoffs. I'm going to talk more about this coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have a lot to talk about today. Trust me on that. Like a good neighbor, Jake is there. Yep, I will be talking about Jake Neighbors and how I'm uberly impressed with him, the momentum shift, and most importantly, Robert Thomas and what he's really done for this team. And 25 more days until that trade deadline. It's approaching fast. And I have to say, I have gone back and forth on what I think the St. Louis Blues will do. But the sooner it's approaching, the more my thoughts kind of shift. So I'm going to talk about that as well. A lot to talk about today, but a lot of good things to talk about. But first, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Hello and a happy Monday to you all. It is February 12th. Most importantly, 3 more days until my birthday, which I know you don't care about, but the Blues do play on my birthday, so I'm kind of like hoping for a win. That would be really cool. Yeah, I'm getting old, but it's okay. So I want to talk about my friend Jake Neighbors because he is somebody I told you from the beginning of the season was going to have quite a year. And I think it really does go to show that you have to sometimes trust these younger players on the team because they can make a big effort on the ice. So after the break, obviously the Blues didn't play since that January 30th game where they lost to Columbus. And on February 10th, so on Saturday, as I said in yesterday's episode, they played against the Buffalo Sabres. And Neighbors had 2 goals, which was insane. It was madness, honestly. And then yesterday against Montreal, he had 1 goal and 1 assist and a fight. So he did get a Gordie Howe hat trick. But the point that I'm trying to make when it comes to Jake Neighbors is that he is a guy with a lot of talent. And I understand this season, 18 goals, 5 assists, totaling 23 points. Not the best, right? You could definitely hope for more assists out of him, but his playmaking skills have been better on ice. His positioning has been quite well. So when you look at the overall grade of how Neighbors has been playing, he is very solid. And I will give him credit because I know that he's worked really hard developing to be able to get to this level. And I think that he's one of the guys on the team that is going to be here for a long time. I think that, when you think of the future of the St. Louis Blues, you would be foolish not to think of Jake Neighbors. I think that he embodies everything that you really need from this team. And I want to let you know, I want you to let me know what you think. I'm live on YouTube per usual. So if you want to drop something in the chat and let me know what you think about Neighbors, please do so because he has been one of those players that I have been excited to watch and excited to see his growth on the ice. And it's also astonishing, honestly, how he has been so hot in these past 2 games when he really wasn't, coming off of much prior to that. I mean, he accumulated nothing in the Columbus game, nothing in the LA Kings game, and nothing in the Seattle Kraken game. So it makes you think, okay, in the last 5 games, the 2 games that they come back from break on, he's able to establish, honestly, 4 points, which you can't say that's bad. And he's definitely getting rewarded with his ice time. I still have a cold a little bit, so don't mind me. But when he played against Montreal, he was on ice for almost 18 minutes. Buffalo, about 11 minutes, which honestly was like some of the lowest times he ever has been on ice. But again, he is proving that if you give him the puck, he will make something out of it. I think that his presence more than ever is the most noticeable. And he's the reason why we won that game against the Sabres. He really is. Now, I do have to give credit to where credit is due. I'm a huge Robert Thomas person, which you all know if you listen to Locked On Blues. You know that it's always Robert Thomas season. But I have made the jokes a couple of times that it is Jake Neighbors' season because I think Jake is one of those players where if you look at how he's been playing, he is consistently dominant on ice. Okay, he may not put up points, fine, but he will fight for the puck. He will make good passes and plays. And the other thing about Jake Neighbors is that he's very coachable. And I think we've seen his development. I mean, even his forecheck has been better. I mean, everything that he's been doing has been better on ice. Being more aggressive in the offensive zone has been another thing that I've seen him improve on. So it's foolish not to look at him and think to yourself, okay, Jake Neighbors, is he the future? He's one of the keys of the future. I'm not saying build around Jake Neighbors by any means, but I am saying build around a Robert Thomas, but utilize players like Jake Neighbors. Do I think Jake Neighbors is better than Jordan Kyrou? Because that's another question a lot of you have been asking me. You're asking, Hale, be honest with us. What do you think about this? Well, I think that Jake Neighbors is showing a lot of potential. I think that he is still very young. I think Jordan Kyrou, on the other hand, is not it's not that he's regressed, right? I think the expectations on him are just so high that if he doesn't perform to that level, it's more of like, okay, this guy's not good, when I think it's the complete opposite. I think they both have two completely different games. I think, Kyrou's been clutch lately again. He's not a player that you're going to look at and be like, oh my gosh, this is the best player I've ever seen wear the blue note. But he is one of those players where I do feel like his presence would be missed on ice if he wasn't on ice for the Blues. And I know as the trade deadline's approaching, and obviously I'll talk about that more coming up, we will be talking about players where it's like, okay, if their presence wasn't on ice, would the Blues still be winning? Because it is so easy to make judgments on players and think, oh, they're replaceable, they're not doing any good. Easy to do that. The reality of, the trade deadline is, how will this help and how will this hurt the team? Because you're never going to have a trade. I mean, you might. Teams do. I'm saying for the Blues, you're never going to have a trade where you're going to be satisfied with. And you might be asking, Haley, why is that? Well, when it's your own team, you want nothing but the best and you grow close to some of these players that you see. And I feel like unless you're getting like Connor McDavid, you're never going to be like, oh, wow, this was such a fair trade. It's never going to be like that at all. And the next question, oh, Stella's here. And the next question that comes up is, what Doug Armstrong does, is this going to help the Blues now or more so in the future? My cat, I have to just tell you, she loves watching Blues hockey with me. And every single time we watch a game together, which is every time, she's like looking at the screen and following along. And it's just very nice having a cat that's so supportive with the St. Louis Blues. Um, but yeah, that was a little break, obviously a little cat break. But getting back to the whole Jake Neighbors and what I was saying beforehand, I want you to let me know what you think. Do you think that this is a guy that is going to continue to impress? Or do you think that with his cold streak that he did have, it draws concerns? I am not concerned, and I said this the whole time. Players get out and cold. That's the nature of the game in the NHL. It's very rare that you're going to have a guy like an Austin Matthews as an example, since everyone knows Austin Matthews, who's always on it. Even Robert Thomas, I mean, he's gotten cold in a couple games, but Robert Thomas at the same time, and I'll talk about this more in a couple minutes, is probably the most consistent hockey player I've seen in quite a while. But it's very rare that you're going to have a player that is going to be scoring all the time. I mean, you will have those guys, okay? So don't come at me. But I'm just saying that, especially with younger players, you can't expect them to always be hot. You know what I mean? It's just kind of unrealistic when you look at the nature of the game. But hey, prove me wrong. And this is one of those times where it's like, if you want to prove me wrong, like I will be more than happy to be proven wrong. So please do so. I'm going to tell you about my friends over at Sleeper. All right. It's almost the halfway point of this season, Blues fans. And right now, we're still in that wild card spot. Regardless of where we're at in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And this is what you can do. You can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, and so much more on Sleeper. I have a group chat called Don't Sleep on Me, and it's a Sleeper group chat that my friends and I use. And entries can be made in under a minute. So all you have to do is pick guys like a Robert Thomas, a Jake Neighbors, a Jordan Kyrou, a Torrey Krug, and a Jordan Binghamton to record more or less in their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Blues fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nailing your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. There has been a momentum shift. What do I mean by that? Well, this team right now, and I know someone said it in my comments, my last video, Haley, they didn't really beat that many good teams. Do I care about that? No. You could beat the worst team in the NHL the way that the Blues have, and I would still feel this way. I don't necessarily always think it's about the level of the team that you beat. Obviously, that does matter because you're thinking, okay, is this team going to be strong enough for the playoffs? Valid, but it's how they've been playing. They've been playing and having fun on the ice. I mean, even Colton Parayko, his goal I'm never going to get over because it just was beautifully set up. Alexei Torchenko. Oh my goodness. Like, you want to tell me that this team isn't fun to watch? This has been such a blast watching the St. Louis Blues. And I think it's truly because they're having fun on the ice. And I don't know if there's been like a momentum shift necessarily, but I've noticed it as a fan. I think that Robert Thomas, and the reason why Robert Thomas is the most underrated player in the NHL is because this team really bounces off on Robert Thomas's energy. This team really feeds off of how Robert Thomas plays. And I don't think there's another team out there that takes so much direction from a young player as the Blues do with Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is the reason why the Blues have been on this momentum shift. I am telling you, he is so important to the growth and success of the St. Louis Blues. And okay, you can come at me and you can say, oh, Haley, one player can change a team. Okay, fair. I know that. But watch how they all react with Robert Thomas on ice. So tomorrow when they play against the Leafs, I want you to seriously watch the direction, no matter what the outcome is, of how Robert Thomas is, his mood on the ice, his effort on the ice, and the team mimics it. Groovy says, watch them beat Toronto tomorrow, 4-3. Oh, no, not another 4-3 game. And tell me that they can't beat good teams. And they can beat good teams, and the Blues have. And that's another thing is that I think people underestimate the St. Louis Blues because, yeah, they had a little bit of a rocky start to the season. But the way that they've been playing is a way that would be kind of scary if I were a team in the same level, maybe a little bit better, because the Blues are more than capable of beating any team in the NHL. And don't forget, it's not about how you start in life. It's about how you finish, okay? Quotes being deep right now in Locked On Blues, but it truly is. And right now, my number one focus, if you're like, Haley, what's your number one focus? Like, what's going on here? For me, it is about how the Blues can get to the playoffs, but not only that, but how they will succeed. And I think having the leadership with, Captain Braden Shen, Then you have, Colton Parayko, you have a Robert Thomas, you have good leadership, right? They are going to really be the factors as to what happens in the playoffs. I think the Blues will make the playoffs. Okay. I know before I said they wouldn't, but they've been playing better hockey. So obviously I'm like, okay, I'm going to shift that opinion. And I don't care if you're like, you're so flippy floppy. Okay. Well, you know what? That's the nature of the game. This team is flippy floppy. But Robert Thomas, it's crazy to think about his story, right? And his growth being a leader on this team. But Colton Parayko has really helped with the defense as well. And even oh my gosh, like this team, I love this team. Because even players like Torrey Krug are making such a big difference, and a Nicoletti. I really love this team. And I think it's important for me to let you know how I feel, because at this moment, I got chills, literal chills, because it just made me realize that there's always something magical about the St. Louis Blues. And maybe it's because we had a recent cup win, but this team just is so special. And I know that the talent that Robert Thomas has is not going to go unnoticed. I know that the NHL will finally give RT his props because he deserves it. You have a goalie in Joel Hofer who is a backup to Benner, and he's been playing such good hockey. I love this team, and you cannot tell me that this team isn't special. This team is so special to me, special to you, and I think that at the end of the day, you can't sleep on the St. Louis Blues. Oh man, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. Okay, just a disclaimer. I have lost most of my parlays. I went on the casino to play some blackjack and lost all my money. So right now I have 4 cents in my account, but I did have $5 in free play for an NBA parlay, which I did do tonight. So I hope I don't lose. If so, I'm out. But again, I love FanDuel because they did give me that free $5. So, okay. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Are any of you guys basketball fans? If so, let me know which team you like. I'm genuinely curious. Yeah, I need to stop betting, but it's a little bit addicting. So, oh man, like it really is. Also, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Uh let's just focus on next season. I still can't believe that they got rid of the Rams. Like, I'm never gonna forgive them for that. I don't understand how we don't have a football team anymore. Like, that's crazy to me. I mean, it is what it is, but I just still think it's a little bit crazy, but it is what it is. All right, 25 days until the trade deadline. I have to tell you, I will be so upset if some of these players get moved. I know Colton Parayko has been in the talks for quite a while. A lot of rumors speculating, and I don't believe rumors. And I'm like, okay, most rumors usually are not true, but this one seems like a little bit too like talked about for it not to be true. And if Colton Parayko gets traded, I will lose my mind. I'm not going to be happy. No matter who we get in return, I'm not going to be happy. And you can say, Hale, it's time to move on. He's getting older, let's say younger. It just sucks because I feel like he has been playing such good hockey this season and he's not been given enough credit and people were just writing him off. Um, I don't know who else the Blues would trade. Maybe you would trade for draft picks. So you would trade, I don't know, Nicoletti, but like, no, it just doesn't make sense. I am against Torrey Krug being traded. Um, I think that he's been so, like, insanely good this season. I really like Torrey Krug now. He really grew on me. I think the Blues would be worse without him. I really do. I think the defense has stepped up, honestly. But who do you think gets traded? I mean, I've been looking at all the possibilities, right? I'm taking away the whole like, no trade clause because like they can always like waive it if they wanted to. Kevin Hayes, maybe Oscar Sundquist. That's been another name, but like Sonny would, it just would suck because he just got back here, and like I like Oscar Sundquist, Sammy Blais. I would, I mean, I like Sammy Blais, but I wouldn't be heartbroken if he got traded. But the reality is, what could they actually get out of him, right? So I want to know what you think. Who do you think gets traded, or if the Blues make any moves? I think the Blues will make a move, okay? I think that a trade will happen. It might be a trade for a draft pick, it might be cap relief. I don't know if it's going to be getting like the star player. I don't think that the Blues are going to do that. Um I would be surprised more than anything if the Blues didn't make a trade. But let me know if, even if this is not live and you're listening on Spotify, tweet me at Locked On Blues. I want to know, do you think the Blues will make a move at the deadline? If so, what do you think they're going to do? I will talk in more detail tomorrow about moves that I think the Blues will make. Obviously, this upsets me because I don't want certain players to be traded. And the players that I like a lot are all the players that are talked about being traded. And I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate the fact that they just want to rip my heart out yet again. I'm not over Vladdy. That one sucked. And Ryan O'Reilly. That sucked. It just sucks. It sucks when we have players that we genuinely really like here in St. Louis and they end up getting traded and leave. And like guys like Alex Petrangelo, like it was cool seeing him and Ivan, with the Golden Knights and winning a cup again. Good for them. But like it does suck, okay? It does suck. I mean, luckily, I don't think that the Leafs are going to be doing anything crazy, but oh yeah, we're going to see him tomorrow. Oh, fun. Cool. Okay, that made me happy. So, yeah. But overall, not too much to be worried about in a sense of like, I don't think they're going to get rid of like a Robert Thomas. If so, I will literally fight somebody in the front office. Like, listen, if any of you who are watching or in the front office or any decision making, and you're thinking about trading Robert Thomas or Jake Neighbors, I will fight you. No, like, I really will. Like, don't do it. All right. I don't know why I got so angry yet again. I guess it's the new theme of Locked On Blues. How angry will Haley get? All right. I will talk to you tomorrow for a little game preview and some more discussion. Oh my goodness. I got really upset. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. And like usual, let's go Blues.